if you will, this morning, I'd love for you just to give the worship team another hand. I've experienced, man. It's not always easy. It's just not always easy. Good morning, church.
Good morning.
I feel the presence of God here, so I'm excited to get started teaching. Welcome to the final installment of What I Love About Jesus. I'm excited to get to finish this series up today, but I must admit privately to y'all, it's maybe been one of the most challenging weeks to prepare because I knew I had to come up with the last thing that I loved about Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, just imagine that. Imagine that. Ronnie is going to be starting a series, not this coming week, but the next week's graduation Sunday, but the next week. And so I knew I was having to kind of finish up because of some things. And so I got started trying to figure out what I was going to tell you guys is the last thing I love about Jesus. So how do y'all make difficult decisions? What's your process y'all go through? You know, when you got a list of things that you like, I'm tell you what I do. The first thing I do is make a list. I've done that ever since I was young. When I was buying a deer rifle when I was 18 years old, I remember I made this long list of all the attributes I needed in a deer rifle. Although this is kind of the same thing. I wrote a long list of just everything I could think of off the top of my head that I loved about Jesus. Then what do y'all do? What's y'all's next step? You ask your wife. Thank you. I knew, Brian. I knew I could count on somebody here. That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. I went to Brittany. I was like, hey, babe, I got this list of things I love about Jesus. Which one of these strikes you? And I'd read them. I'd say, what about this one? And she was like, oh, I love that one. I was like, okay, star, okay. And then I'll be like, all right, and let me say this one. I said, what do you love about that? She goes, oh, I love that one too. I was like, okay, star. All right, so what about it? I'm like, and I got like 10 down. I had 10 started. I'm like, you're no help. You're no help. So then I decided I had to put the list through an extensive vetting process, a rigorous process. It took me all week. What I did was, the first thing is I made pros and cons for each one. You know, y'all do pros and cons lists, and I got that thing, and then I'm like, well, if I say this, it could do this, and if I said this, it could do that, you know. So I just went on through that list, and then I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll take it to the staff, and we'll put it up to a vote. Right, because that makes sense. I got this whole staff of people. What are they for? You know, if not for me. And so I was like, here you go, guys. Here's the list. Here's what it is. And we did a silent ballot. We raised hands. We said aye for some, and we even tried to do a Scantron, but we had some hanging chads, so that didn't work. Some of y'all got that joke. Some of you didn't. It's fine. We drew straws. I did a raffle. I put all of them in a hat, and we just started picking them out of a hat, and I didn't like the first one or two we drew. I was like, I don't know, we could do better. Eeny, meeny, miny, mode. Y'all know Mo? He helps me with a lot of decisions, man, especially with the girls. We're like, hey, y'all want to eeny, meeny, miny, mo this? Trying to pick clothes in the morning. Jake and I we picked a few, and we played rock, paper, scissors for them. That's how we used to make decisions. Finally, I just closed my eyes, and I pointed. And that's what y'all are getting this morning. Because the Lord led my hand, you know. I'm sorry if you believe that sort of thing. It's fine. I do believe that I've settled on the last thing that I love about Jesus. And I want to share it with you this morning. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. In order to do this, though, guess what thou pastor shalt do? God, I was really hoping someone would say, you know, something like, tell ye thy story or something, but it's nothing. Tell you a story, that's exactly right. If you want to, you can turn in your Bibles to John chapter 6. That's where we're going to be today. We pick up, this is following really the woman at the well story. Remember, Jesus was traveling back from Judea to Galilee, going back to his home grounds around Galilee where he had already been and he'd already been teaching. So when Jesus arrives back in Galilee, people are excited that he's come back. Right? He's making his lap around Galilee again. So people are very excited to see him there. And Jesus is just teaching. He is healing people. He is hanging out with people. And the crowd has grown to be very substantial. And the needs were great. In the book of Matthew, we're told, though, right about the time Jesus was doing this, on one particular day, that news arrived to him that John the Baptist had been executed. And when Jesus received this news that John had been executed, as you can imagine, John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin. He was Jesus's precursor. He was the guy that was going around telling everybody the Messiah's coming. But he was also Jesus's friend. Okay? This was his friend. And so when Jesus heard this news, he goes to his disciples and he says, hey guys, we need to go. Get us a boat. We're going to go across Galilee, and I want us to have some just time together. I need to get away. So Jesus, I believe, was wanting some time just to be with his disciples, to go, to pray, to grieve, maybe to collect himself. And so the boys got the boat ready, and they headed off for a distant private shore. I'm sure a place they knew of, a place kind of in the wilderness, as you would say. And as they traveled on across the sea, it says that all of a sudden, some of the villages they were passing, some of the people that they were passing on the shoreline were looking out. I don't know if they have binoculars or not, probably not. And they looked and they recognized that it was Jesus in the boat. And so some of them started shouting. They were going, hey, Jesus is on the water. He's going somewhere. And so all of a sudden, these people started following Jesus along the shore. Have you ever seen anything like that before? I have. Every time I think about this story, I think about my grandfather's boxer bulldog, Jake. And they lived on a lake, and we would go fishing, and we wouldn't take Jake very often because it was a little bitty bass boat, and Jake was just a problem. And so we would go, and we would get on the boat, and we would go fishing, and I can't tell you how many times we got way up the lake, and we'd be sitting there fishing on the bank, and all of a sudden we'd hear something in the woods, and look, and there's Jake. You know how the boxer, I can't do a boxer face, but there he would be, just standing there looking at us. And Papa would be like, Jake, what are you doing here? He's standing in somebody's azaleas, And we'd have to pull up there and get Jake on the boat. And he was, Nub was wagging. He was excited to be on the boat. I can't tell you how many times that happened. So that's kind of how I envision these people. I mean, not that they look like bulldogs or had nubs, but I mean, that's what I'm thinking. That's the scene that I see. So these people are traveling along the shore, and I just see Jesus and his guys. They're just like, let's just go. Let's get over here to our place. So they land across the sea there, and they beach the boat, and this is what it says in verse 3. It says, then Jesus climbed a hill and sat down with his disciples around him. I imagine this time, similar really to this morning, to what we experienced here before the service. And they're just sitting around talking. They're talking about God. I think they're talking about John. I think they're probably telling funny stories on John, You remember that time you ate that old bowl of grasshoppers and got sick, Because John, it's a Bible humor, guys. He ate locusts and honey, and that's what we're told in the Bible. So, remember that time you ate that whole bowl of rotten grasshoppers? I don't know. Something. They're just talking. They're just spending some time together. Jesus is having a moment with his guys. And then in verse 5 it says this is, Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. So apparently they had them some time, and then just for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, very soon, here comes this crowd of people that has accumulated on the shore. And they're coming. And it's a lot of people, guys. It's a whole lot of people. But I want you to notice the Bible doesn't say that Jesus scoffed or that he kicked dirt. It's like, they found me. You know what I mean? He didn't look at his disciples and go, hey, go tell them I'm not here, right? Just go tell them I went off somewhere. He didn't find a hole and dive in it. Apparently, Jesus started making plans for their arrival because he turns to Philip and he asks, where can we buy bread to feed all these people? Now, I love this question. I love this question because it is a loaded question to Philip, okay? He is setting Philip up. Some would say he was picking on Philip, but this is what he does. So Jesus sees this crowd coming, and he knows, I'm going to be teaching. They're going to have needs. I'm probably going to be healing. We're going to be here a while. They followed us here. We're going to be here a while. And apparently, when he surveys the crowd, he realized that these people dropped what they were doing, and they just started coming. They just came on their own. They didn't have bags. They didn't have, lunch pails. They didn't have anything. And so Jesus just turns to Philip and he puts all the pressure on Philip and he says, hey, man, where are we going to buy the bread to feed all these people? So Jesus is taking it upon himself. He said, I want to feed them. We should feed them. Where are we going to get all this bread? Now, how do y'all think Philip's feeling? Philip goes, he knows two things. We just traveled to a distant shore to get away from everybody and everything. I'm looking around, and he's asking me for bread. I don't see a Panera Bread. You know what I mean? Does Panera Bread even sell bread? Okay, well, that makes sense then. There's the name. Do I look like somebody that goes to Panera Bread? I don't think so. I'm just, whatever. Philip goes, he goes, there's nowhere for us to buy. But now I want you to look what it says. And I love this. Verse 6 said he was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. This Jesus, he was testing him. Philip replied, even if we worked for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them. This is, Philip sees all the problems. Here's the problem. There's nowhere to buy food. And if there was somewhere to buy food, who could afford it? There's no possible way we could afford to feed all of these people. This is ridiculous, Jesus. Two major problems. Nowhere to get it, no way to afford it. In verse 8 it says, then Andrew, Peter's brother, spoke up. And I believe that he and Philip must have been friends, because I think Andrew's just trying to say something just to bail Philip out. He's sensing Philip's, the pressure that Philip's got on him. He's in a bad way. He don't know what to do. And so he speaks up. He said, verse 9, there's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd? Andrew speaks up. He offers something. I see this. We have a young boy here. If you're interested in feeding everybody, there's a young boy here, but he's got 5 barley loaves, which are just little rolls, and 2 fish that were probably pretty small fish, closer to sardines than like a salmon, okay? He says, I got this young boy here, and I love this. What did he say? But what good, isn't that what he said, Danny? But what good is that with this huge crowd? What good could possibly come out of this little amount of food with this huge a crowd? Jesus says, verse 10, tell everyone to sit down, Jesus said. So they all sat down on the grassy slopes. Now, I want you to envision this. It said the men alone numbered about 5,000. So I want you to see this. This is a grassy, hilly little place, and everybody starts sitting down. In the Bible, we're told they sat down in groups of 50 and in groups of 100, and they all started sitting down in groups, and Jesus had everybody sitting down. 5,000 men. If you applied just our statistic here on Sunday morning, if we counted every man in here, which we kind of have some of this data, if you did that and you applied our statistics to that, if it's 5,000 men, it was easily 10,000 people. Easily 10,000 people. Probably a good bit more. 10,000 people sitting on the grassy slopes. In verse 11 it says, then Jesus took the loaves and he gave thanks to God. I love how John is so simple. And distributed them to the people. What do you think happened? He just passed it around. That's not what he did. He didn't just break it up in a bunch of pieces and just sling it among them. You know what I mean? Y'all fight for it. That's not what he did. Jesus took the loaves and he thanked God for them. And this is what we're told in the Bible. They had some baskets and he began to break this bread up. And as he broke it, it seemed like it never ended. It never left. It never dwindled. He just kept breaking off pieces of bread and putting it in the basket and putting it in the basket. And then he called his disciples, and Matthew and Mark were told he included the disciples. The disciples came. They got the baskets, and they began walking around and giving it to people. Get you a piece of bread. Get you a piece of bread. Get you a piece of bread. And then it says that Jesus did the exact same thing with the fish. He laid out these 2 fish, and I began to cut these 2 fish up. And as he cut them, the more he cut them, the more fish there appeared to be. And he was putting it in baskets, and he handed it to the disciples, and the disciples were walking around. And they were handing this fish to everybody. A miracle was being performed with every tear of the bread and every cut of the fish. A miracle was being performed. And the fish and the bread were distributed to all. And this is what it says. And they all ate as much as they wanted. Did you see that? 10,000 people, 5 loaves, 2 fish, all ate how much? As much as they wanted. Verse 12 it said, after everyone was, what's the word? Full. What were they? Full. After everyone was full, Jesus told his disciples, now gather the leftovers. You getting this? He just fed everybody with that little amount of food, and he said, now gather the leftovers. So these people had eaten. I've seen some of us eat, okay? You know, I don't put a plate up with food on it. You know what I mean? So I'm just imagining that crowd is probably similar to this crowd. And these people had pushed their plates back with food on them. Jesus said, now gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted. So they picked up the pieces and filled 12 baskets with the scraps left by the people who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. There were leftovers when Jesus was through. That's a cool story, isn't it? I love this story. It's one of my favorite stories to get to tell. Would you like to know what I love about Jesus in this story? Worked hard all week on it, as I told you guys. Narrowing it down. This is it. Jesus, in reading this story, I discovered that Jesus is always available. And man, if that ain't something I love about him. I can't help but notice that Jesus welcomed the visit of this huge crowd. I can't help but that Jesus was available to them. He had went. He wanted. We knew what Jesus wanted. What did Jesus want? John, what did he want? He wanted to get away. He wanted to have some time. He wanted to be by himself with his disciples. And he was headed there. That's all he wanted to do. And he looked on the shore, and here's this crowd of people that's following him. But we're not told that he gets aggravated or that he's frustrated about that. He gets there. He has his moment. And when he sees the huge crowd coming on the horizon, Jesus immediately starts making plans on how to help them. Do you see that? Jesus made himself available. Like I told you before, he didn't go hide. You know what I mean? He didn't send them to voicemail. He didn't do any of that. He was available because that's who he is. And man, if that ain't something I love about him. He had plenty going on. And even though there were thousands of these people, Jesus seemed to meet them with open arms. Jesus was happy to meet them. He was happy to host them. He made himself available. And the truth is, whenever we come to Jesus, he is just as willing. You know what? I'm not feeling this one. I mean, it's good. Jesus is available. Y'all love that about Jesus, don't you? I love that about Jesus too. But I think I could do better. Okay? I mean, can we rewind the tape? Okay. Let's try this one. All right, everybody, back up for me. Ready? In reading this story, do you know what I love about Jesus? Jesus cares about even the smallest need. Do you see that one? Boy, I love that about Jesus. I mean, he's always available, that's good. But Jesus cares about even the smallest need. Do you see that when this crowd was coming, they were coming in with all sorts of problems, I'm sure, and all sorts of questions, and all sorts of things he was going to have to deal with. He was going to heal some of these people. But Jesus, when he surveyed the crowd, what did he look and see? These people don't have nothing to eat. Now, they came on their own, right? These are grown people. Their own accord. They decided, that they wanted to drop whatever it is they were doing and head towards Jesus. I mean, they're grown people. They make their own life decisions, right? But Jesus saw it, and he said, you know what? They don't have nothing to eat. They're going to be here a while. They're going to get hungry. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to take care of that for them. That's what I'd like to do. So he looked at Philip, right? Hey, guys, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? I see this need. I want to fill this need. It doesn't matter that it's an everyday, mundane, normal need that every basic person has to have. I see it, and I want to take care of it. Jesus cares even about the smallest need. Even though he was going to do all sorts of incredible things, he wanted to take care of something simple for them. That's how much he loved them. That's how much he wanted to bless them. Don't you love that about Jesus? Okay, that's not good enough. I got another one. Hang on a second. Let's back up one more time. Let's back up a little bit, okay? I still think I think we could do better. All right, you ready? Here it is. In reading this story, everybody reset? All right. In reading this story, this is what I really see. Jesus can do a lot with a little. Come on. Now, we love that about Jesus, don't we? Jesus can do a lot with a little. With just 5 loaves and 2 fish, Jesus fed thousands. He fed thousands. Anything, when it passes through Jesus' hands, can be multiplied. That's the truth. That is something I absolutely love about Him. Absolutely. I've seen that in my own life. In the hands of Jesus, our resources, our abilities, anything we're willing to give to Him can be multiplied. He can take the smallest amount of faith, the smallest amount of effort, the smallest amount of gifts, and He can accomplish unbelievable things with them. He loves nothing more than to take something that's been given with a willing heart and expand the results of it so that it reaches farther than you ever thought was possible. So that it does something unexplainable. That's what Jesus loved to do. He can do a lot with a little. Man, I love that about Him. I love that about Jesus. He loves to use it that way. He loves to perform a miracle. I still don't feel like y'all getting it. I want to do another one. Hang on. Just right. Just go with me. Go with me. Say we're going to go with you, Tim. Maybe think of another one. Listen to this. Jesus loves to include us in the miracle. Amen. You see that? You see, Jesus loves to include us in the miracle. Jesus he performed this incredible miracle, and all the power was His, right? Every bit of the power was His. It was what He did. He did it in His hands, and that's incredible. But then I just love the fact that He took and He handed it to the disciples, and He allowed them to be the ones to distribute it. Because you know what that means? Even though Jesus has all the power, He doesn't want to be the only one that experiences all the good and all the incredible feelings of seeing a miracle performed. He wanted His disciples to see and experience it. He loves to involve us in the miracles. He wants us to do our part. He wants to see us being used. He wants us to be a part of it so that we can experience, listen to this, so that we can experience the fruit of His labor. That's what He loves to do. He wants us carrying our baskets. Ooh, baskets. That makes me think of another one. Baskets. The baskets at the end of the story. That's something else I love about Jesus. Maybe we'll start with this is the one. I feel like this is good. I love this about Jesus. Jesus doesn't stop at full. Jesus doesn't stop at full. Jesus could have stopped at full, right? He could have been surveying. He could have known the exact amount that it would. I'm sure He knew the exact amount it was going to take for everybody to be full. But Jesus didn't want just everybody to be full. He wanted to make sure that He made a point. When I bless you, when you involve me, we're not going to stop at full. I'm going to go above and beyond what you think you deserve. The people were amazed that just 2 fish and loaves had been multiplied to fill everyone in attendance. But I believe the moment He sent them home with doggy baskets, they understood what He was all about. So often in life, Jesus blesses us beyond what we are due or what even seems reasonable for us. And boy, do I love that about Him. He moves on our behalf and then goes on to move in such a way that it is undeniable that it came from Him. All right. I feel like y'all got a little carried away this morning. Y'all see what I'm saying? It's tough to pick the last one. It's real hard to pick the last thing I love about Jesus. Even in this one story, it's impossible for me to settle on one thing that I love about Him. So it dawned on me this week that maybe my point's not supposed to be the one thing. Maybe it's supposed to be all the things. Amen. So would you like to know what my real point is? Really, this time, really. There's always more to love about Jesus. That's what I really love about Him. There is always more to love about Him. This is just one story, and I could still be sharing different characteristics of qualities and truths and lessons about Jesus. We could be here for a while, guys. But not just this story. As I think back through my life, I could sit up here all day and tell you all the things I love about Jesus. I could tell you all the things that I love about Him that have greatly affected my life. This is what I have really discovered. With every story that I read, with every experience that I have with Jesus, there is always more to learn and understand and discover and love about Him. That's what I believe. As you grow to know Him more intimately, you will discover things, you will learn things at just the right time, at just the right moment that you need it, and you will love Him for it. There will be something about who He is, or what He does, or what He's all about that'll change your life right when you need it. It'll change your perspective at just the right moment. It'll move you where you need to be. There will always be more things that you will find about Him that will give you hope right when you need it, strengthen you right when you need it, and lead you to live the best life possible. A life like you've never imagined. I can't tell you how often something about Jesus has just appeared that I hadn't thought about or I haven't applied to my life in some way. Moments when I didn't know what to do or where to turn, where Jesus just became so obvious to me. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. There have been moments in my life where I didn't know where to turn. And I didn't think I had anybody to talk to. And I didn't think there was something that I could share. Where I didn't know who I was supposed to go to. And then I remember Jesus is always available. Maybe I read it in a story. Maybe I heard it in a song. Maybe it just came back into my mind for whatever reason. But I remember Jesus is always available. And it dawned on me that applied to me. That mattered to me, that I had somebody I could go to. I had somebody I could talk to. I had somebody I could lean on. I had somebody who would never be too busy, who would always stop what they were doing and would hear what I had to say. There have been times in my life where these simple life things, these simple, small little things came up in my life that I needed. And I would think, man, I can't ask God for that. I can't talk to Jesus about that. That's not something that He's got bigger fish to fry. He's got bigger problems He's trying to fix. There's all sorts of other stuff going on in the world. And then all of a sudden I would read a story or feel it as I prayed. And Jesus would say, I want to take care because I care even about your smallest needs. I can't tell you how many times that's happened for me. I can't tell you how many times I've felt inadequate, insecure, unworthy in my life. And at just the right moment, I would read something or I would hear something or hear a sermon or read in the Bible and I would realize that Jesus can do a lot with a little. Do you know how many times that happens? I guarantee you it happens to me once a week, standing right back there or right back there, right before I walk up here. And I'm back there praying and I go, God, I don't know. I can't do this. I can't be this guy. And Jesus said, oh yeah, you can, because I can do a lot with a little. I can't tell you how many times I've been in my life praying for a miracle for others or in my life in some way. I've been praying for this miracle, and all of a sudden Jesus shows me something I'm supposed to do. He hands me a basket, and I remember that He likes to include us in His miracles. And boy, if ever. when I have experienced unexplainable heaping blessings in my life, that I've been reminded that Jesus doesn't stop at full. I want to tell you the truth, and the thing that I love about Jesus is the more you get to know him, the longer you know him and the more you get to know him, and the closer you get to him, the more you'll love. That's what I love. And it's always growing. There's a song that says, the more I seek you, the more I find you. And boy, am I eternally grateful for that. Let me pray for you. There's always more to love about you, Jesus. There's always more to love about you. There are hundreds of stories about you in this book. And with every one, it seems there are thousands of things to love about you. So this is my prayer for my church and for my friends, is that they will grow to know you. And as they grow to know you, live in relationship with you, make you Lord over their life, that they will discover all of the things that I've discovered and more. I pray they discover more about you than I have. And that our love for you grows. It grows in such a tremendous way that it overflows to the people around us. I want us to be known as the Jesus-loving church. That's who they are. They're a bunch of Jesus lovers. That's what I want. I want us to look for you more so that we find you more and we love you more. In Jesus' name, everybody says, amen. I love you guys. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.